We're back with Joy Mdivo, who's the Executive Director, East Africa Center for Law and Justice. And we also have Edgar Willie, who's a public policy analyst, to help us, put perspective to the stories that are making headlines in the country, if need be, across the board. Welcome once again. It is time for the State of Affairs segment. And remember, it's important that you're part and parcel of the conversation. Hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Lala TV47KE. You can drop your comments down there and we'll get to sample some of them as we proceed. So we take a look at the stories that have been happening right here. But importantly, let's first of all start with this one on matters education. Education is crucial. And MAGOHA has treated us to, I would say interesting moments, confusing moments for that matter. I don't want to declare them confusing, but many have declared them so. Looking at also what he said yesterday, that the media has come out to paint a fool of him. Do you suppose that it's the media or it's just the way he's handled things at this time of COVID-19? While we might point fingers at him, let's also consider the fact that, yes, the entire global fraternity has been trying to figure out what next as we deal with the pandemic. Joy.
The entire global pandemic, the entire global family, most of them, their children are either back in school or if they're not in school, they have a plan of what they will do with their children when they go back to school. In my opinion, and I have said it here before and I will repeat it again, if the Ministry of Education was giving us plans, concrete plans of what they're doing to ensure that our children are safe, to ensure that we have a return back to school formula, then nobody would be painting anybody a fool because it would be apparent what work is going into it. So we have opined, for example, one of our new normals is some form of social distancing. We have also pointed out that, especially in Nairobi, which is the epicenter of the breakout of the virus, we have not enough public schools. We have also pointed out that many of the private schools that were bridging the gap that was left by not having enough public schools are also going to shut down because the business of education has been bad this year. They are bankrupt. They're not able to proceed. These are things, by the way, any ordinary pedestrian on the street can tell you about the state of education. Now, this has been a year when the capitation funds that are usually taken to the schools for public schools to bridge the gap for government sponsorship for free primary education and secondary as well has not been used. Have we been seeing extra classrooms being put up? No. Have we even been seeing maybe containers being refurbished and being installed in our regular public schools to ensure better social distancing? No. Have we been seeing then maybe places where there is not a single public school, a slum like Soweto, for or if you're looking Umoja 3, those sites, there's informal settlements that came up a bit later that don't have a single public school. Have we been seeing, okay, the land that has been repossessed, we are putting up, even if there are mabati and wooden structures, but we are putting up extra public schools? No. We haven't seen anything that shows that the Ministry of Education is putting any thought into this process. All we have had is they'd rather be alive than dead, which we agree with. We don't argue with. We love our children. We don't want them to die. We have had maybe next year. We have had maybe November. We've had maybe. If the Ministry of Education was demonstrating leadership in this, you saw the way the governors, whether they were borrowed or not, they had at least tried. Here we have enough beds. We have this isolation. You could see some thoughts into bringing a solution. But the Ministry of Education has just been mum. Then, of course, there's the issue about the online learning. It's been shown that it's not as efficient as we thought it would be. So now, what are we going to do for the children who've not been learning? Then the big question that everybody wants to find out is, okay, fine. So what are we going to do about the candidates? Will they still be able to sit the exam in March? Will they be able to sit the exam this year anyway, based on what they had done until Standard 7? So until the Ministry of Education give us some really concrete answers on solutions that Kenyans really care about, it's not we who are painting the minister in bad light. He's doing it all by himself.
Well. Looping in Edgar, and sincerely speaking, we've seen like about 3 leaders right now pointing or fingers at the media. And yes, MAGOHA yesterday saying that the media has painted about or has made him look like a fool. Right Honorable Raila Odinga spokesman Dennis Onyango has now called on DCI to investigate journalists giving Obado fair coverage by claiming that they are being given money to do that. And today morning, we've been treated also to a newspaper story that, and not just today morning, but technically that's what the Council of Governors chair declared yesterday, that, you know, the media has been covering, that is Nation Media in particular, has been covering, you know, so much of corrupt stories. So in this case, they're going to stop advertisement. They won't be giving them advertisements, and they won't like it or won't be going easy on any media station that decides to be, you know, painting a bad picture of the corrupt activities that are happening at the level of the counties. Just how best can this be handled?
Thank you very much, Linda. You were breaking a bit when you were starting, but let me just start with the issue of education. I had an opinion when MAGOHA was starting off in the Ministry of Education that he was the wrong choice of the education docket. Oh, yeah? Because MAGOHA tried to fit into the shoes of the former CS of Education, which is Dr. Matiang'i. He tried very much to fit into the shoes, and he couldn't. Dr. Matiang'i is very brutal in his tackling of education matters. And MAGOHA has tried to be brutal too, by even calling people fools in the media and trying to push people around. That cannot work. That cannot work in a docket like that, where we have politics pushing agendas in the ministry. It cannot really work. MAGOHA has been shifting goals, saying this and saying that and saying this and saying that. We are opening schools, we are closing schools, we are opening, and he can only blame himself. Right now, a few weeks ago, he said that the BOM people, those people who are employed through BOM, are going to be paid some money. Yeah. But people are complaining. They are saying they are not seeing any money coming.
Well, today we have the latest of developments declaring that they have been paid, yes. Which is actually one thing that we were talking about this morning. So yes, I hope they have all been paid.
Oh, I hope so too. I'm here to confirm from my people from the ground, because those are the ones telling me that they have not been paid. And also, you were talking about the county. The county government bosses, talking about the Nation Media Group.
Yes, this is what I was asking. This is what I was asking. Like, it's not, MAGOHA is not the only one that has pointed the fingers at the media. He says that the media has painted a bad picture of him. Council of Governors also threatening Nation Media Group and saying that they've been highlighting so much of negatives on the counties or in the counties, and in that case they will even stop advertising with them. And again, the latest that we are having right now is that Right Honorable Raila Odinga's spokesman, that is Dennis Onyango, has called on DCI to investigate journalists that are giving Obado fair coverage by claiming that they are being given money to do that. And really, I just don't know whether this is fair at all for the media, or just how best can some of these issues be handled.
Linda, you cannot control whatever goes out into the media. Yeah. You cannot control whatever you give it to the media. So it usually takes a direction that it takes a direction. The public has a perception. The public can see what is happening, and they can judge what is happening. The Obado story, the county government story, and MAGOHA'S story are just stories going into the media, and they take their own direction. The media should never be attacked for forming a certain opinion or driving a certain agenda, because the public cannot be controlled. The media is just not the TV alone. It also involves the Twitter, and people have agenda. People are pushing certain agenda in the media. So the media cannot be blamed. We can only be responsible for what we do. We can only think before we say we can only push certain agendas. But if you think that your image is destroyed, you can still use the media to clean your image. You can still use the media to clean your image. But of late, the media has been compromised. Sometimes the media pushes the story about Ruto so much. It's the government so much. Ruto government, Ruto RAILA, Ruto this, Ruto that. So sometimes the media is being used, and sometimes the media is intimidated even by President Uhuru himself.
Yeah.
So you can't even cover Mama Ngina. You will go in. You have to be careful about things that are happening around. So the media can mess you up or can build you up.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Joy, as we, in a way, sort of wind up on this, because it continues to be our conversation that is ongoing in regards to whether we should have our students go back to school. There's still a lot of confusion within the education sector. We've seen differences coming up from the, commission itself and the unions. And it's just a hula baloo. While there's all this confusion, what is left of our kids?
They are still alive.
That's, okay. Well, at least that we can say thank you for.
Yes, and we give God thanks for that.
Right.
But the other thing is, I think for many of the parents who I've spoken with, especially the ones who have candidates, they've had to do a lot of counseling and just reassuring the children that, you know what, in the big scheme of things, 1 year is something you can recover.
Yeah.
Because those of us who've been alive a little while know 1 year can pass by very quickly. And with the patience of 1 year, you can gain 5 years in advantage, But if you rush something, you could lose 5 years in trying to make up for it. So there are parents that I've talked to, because I'm on the board of a school. Many of the parents and the teachers as well, like even now, the online classes that they're offering, especially the standard 8s, it's no longer about the substance in the curriculum. It's more about the life skills, the counseling, because they realize the children were in a bad place. When you cite you're finishing, I'm a candidate 2020, I'm going to finish, and then you don't. It takes a toll on you. If you can remember how eager we were to get out of school, especially secondary school, it can take a toll on you. So that's where many of them have gone. But just to comment a little bit on what you had asked Edgar earlier about the media.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think we must acknowledge is that there's some truth into what the Council of Governors is saying and the criticism being leveled against the media, because brown envelope journalism in this country is a reality. If you want people to come and cover your event, if you want people to come and do whatnot, unless you're like a really big ticket client, for lack of a better word, many of the times you'll have to get people to come with some incentive to get them to come there. And that has lent the media to being used left, right, and center, as Edgar said. We also have seen the era of sponsoring headlines and sponsoring stories, where if I really want things to go my way, I'll just pay you guys, and every day I'm in the headline, and nikikosa headline, niko page 3. When you open the paper, the first one you see, such that it's become a tactic.
But just why, Joy, is this happening? Is it a replica of what has been in the forces or the police force, where you find that, there's been talks of corruption, bribery, and the argument is that the situation for the police force or the policemen or police officers is dire, hence that push to probably, try and find an extra coin. What exactly it is it that could be informing this? The rot in the society, or?
No, but also the journalists contribute to it, because if you're holding yourself out to be a looker-outer for the society, and you're reporting the truth, and you're doing these exposés, claims of exposés becoming extortion rings have been rife. But my criticism of the media goes that much. There's also the criticism of the Council of Governors. Their move was actually a step towards trying to muzzle the media, which is equally wrong. You cannot tell us that, by the way, we'll no longer advertise with you because you write bad stories about us. It's ridiculousness, because it's actually akin to blackmail. You're telling somebody, write like this or else. which for governors is totally beneath them. There's also the aspect of them also crying louder that one side has gotten coverage more than the other. I mean, if you really think about it, our governors, our leaders are covered a lot. You read the papers. In fact, there's a time Kenyans are saying we have too much politics. So when a media house tries to be balanced and to give us both sides of the story, how is that a bad thing? So it's one of those things where the Council of Governors, I think, overstepped their, in fact, they showed their bias.
Yeah.
They're saying, you know what, you cover us the way we want or else. And I think because the money that they use to pay nation media is not coming from their pockets, it's public money. They cannot,
Public money.
They cannot pretend to behave as if they're doing nation media a favor by using nation media to inform us, the ones who have hired them, of what needs to go on.
Yeah.
So they need to retract that letter of theirs very quickly and just grow a spine. You know what? This life is hard. Let's just do the best we can, all of us together. But this Vitisho Baridi, it's not the day and age of it. Having a free and liberated media is something that is essential to getting our constitutional right of access to information. So we cannot muzzle the media. Whatever their weaknesses, we have to find a way of mitigating them, but not using economic espionage and sabotage. It's not right.
Yes, and picking it
But
up.
it worked.
Yes.
I'm saying it worked.
Right.
It
Wow.
smoked nation out of they
No,
had
the
to
media
go to the
owners
media.
rallied.
Yes.
No, they all rallied because they realized today is nation, tomorrow is
Yes,
citizen,
tomorrow
tomorrow is
is-
who.
that's
So they
right.
had to all rally behind nation and say, you know what, don't do that. And in fact, I wish the media would even go as far as long as the ban is on place in nation media, then none of the rest of us is going to give you coverage, so that it's tit for tat.
Yes.
Okay, so you won't advertise on nation, fine. Neither will the rest of us take your adverts.
Okay.
Really, in a free market economy, good luck with that one. But I wish they would teach people a lesson. Uheshimiana.
Okay, well, and speaking of which, now we're still talking about Obado, and in relation to that declaration by Dennis Onyango. And yes, we've seen his security detail being withdrawn as the impeachment motion was adjourned. And the speaker now citing that his life is in danger, hence the reason why he proceeded to adjourn that. Just what is it that is happening with the counties, looking at what we've also been treated to? Governors being presented to court, governors, appearing before the EACC, embezzlement of funds on the front page of the People Daily today, a pinpoint of what has been happening in Kirinyaga County, 77 million or billion, in question. And interestingly, a company that is being considered to have been awarded that tender, and the owner comes out to claim that, you know what, I have no idea actually that there was this tender that was given to me. It's 77 million. Just what is happening, in our counties today?
Linda, you are only wrong in our country when the government tells you that you are wrong.
Okay.
You are, you are right until the government comes to your door to tell you that you are wrong. We are living in a country that is run by, you can say is run by interests, is run through interests, is run by the police, is run by the military right now. If you are not careful, we'll also be militarized. Now, AUKOT Obado's security was withdrawn because of a certain direction that the government is taking. The government is being selective in fighting corruption here and there. I think everyone is culpable and everyone has done a certain wrong, but it will depend on how wrong are you before the president or Raila Odinga or the leaders of the country. There are cases which are being treated in a very different manner. Kirinyaga, for example. Kirinyaga is right with the BBI. You have to be right with BBI so that you can survive in this country. AUKOT Obado is wrong with Raila Odinga. That's why they even declared on a national TV that these guys should be impeached. And MCAs were directed that Obado should be impeached. And even the security of the Speaker of County Assembly of Migori has been withdrawn too, just to intimidate this guy, to impeach this fellow. How far can you go to impeach someone or to get someone out of their seat? The charges being given being leveled on the governor of Migori has the director of public prosecution is the one coming up with the charges, and it is the state coming up with the charges. So taking the charges before the courts, you have to prove that someone is culpable. So this is where the problem is. The state, the police, the DCI comes up with evidence, and the DCI is under the control of the president, and it actually shouldn't. So it is a process that you can start with, when you don't like someone. When you don't like someone, what is happening to Okoth Obado is quite unfair. But if he stole, let justice be done. And if justice can be done to Obado, then let justice be done to everyone equally in the country.
Right.
Don't leave Kirinyaga out of this. Don't leave anywhere, even Mutua and all those other people. Those who I mentioned Mutua because of Joy. Yes.
Okay. Well, and that aside, speaking of matters graft still, KEMSA officials, appearing before EACC and a crackdown in their offices or on their offices yesterday. Is it going to yield any fruits? Are we likely to get answers as declared by President Uhuru Kenyatta that in 21 days the investigative bodies should at least treat us to tangible evidence and tangible information that would now allow us as a country to proceed to court processes that will probably get us to having answers as to the KEMSA graft charges that are ongoing? Joy.
The 21 days is expiring, I think, next Wednesday.
Yeah.
The 21 days is up, and so we need to get concrete answers from them. And like I've said here before, and I must reiterate, that of all the people who have been investigating this matter, whether it is the Parliament, the National Assembly, or the Senate, only the EACC and the DCI can get into the nitty-gritty and the meat of this. And they have the technology, they have the manpower, and they have the mandate to do so. And so until the 21 days is up next Wednesday, what I am expecting from them now is a more concrete, something that we can actually action. Because what we've been seeing before is like rumors and hearsay. We hear this guy got this tender, we hear that guy got that tender, we hear this company is this KOT investigators do a little bit, that's the Kenyans on Twitter, they do a little bit of investigation and come up with screenshot of who owns this. But all those things are not actionable. Until the organizations vested with the investigative powers come up with not just the investigation, but the recommendations on how to proceed forward, then I think we don't really have much to go on based on what we have in the media. But once they come up with that report and they give us now credible information, the next thing you will see is the DPP now writing his famous letters and saying, you know what, today I asked so-and-so to please turn up. Today I actually gave the go-ahead for the file on so-and-so to be taken to court. And I'm hoping that that's where we're headed with this. So we've got one more week to wait. After that, the president as well as the Kenyans will be told exactly what the EACC and the DCI have found out in KEMSA. And we are all waiting with bated breath, because this has been one of those scandals that for me, it was a punch in the gut. It was not just, random money being stolen. This came at a time when Kenyans just could not afford to lose even a shilling. And if there are people with such zero conscience, we need to hit them with everything we've got. Every law in the book needs to come at them. There should be no mercy. It doesn't matter who you are, this one, there should be no mercy, because it is incorrigible to imagine that you would wait for a pandemic when everybody is in such dire straits, and then you pull such stance. It's called disaster capitalism. It's nonsense, but we need to call it out for what it is, that it is immoral and it needs to be punished. So I have high hopes on what DCI and EACC are going to come up with. And if they come up with recommendations, I hope they're followed through, that they would be treated to a cover-up.
All right, and yes.
Linda.
Yes,
Linda,
as I loop
going
you
to
in,
differ. Yes.
we are still discussing the MES scandal and former top officials on the spot over this particular project. We're talking of the likes of CS Macharia, we have Cecily Karaoke, Ambassador Cleopa Mailu. I think this happened during their watch, or the watch of Cecily Karaoke. I mean, this is pretty much unfortunate. This down the line, we've not been able to get crucial answers of the same. So what are just the likelihoods that, again, KEMSA, we're going to get answers as we loop you in?
I didn't get your first. I didn't get your first question, but I'm just going to try
It's in
to.
regard. No. It's just in connection with the same, yeah. And we are talking about, of course, the latest that is coming on board. That Senate team wants EACC to probe ministers and PACs for acts of omission and commission that led to loss of public funds. That was some times back on a story that has been, captured right here. And former top health officials on the spot over MES project. So this is one of, the issues of allegations, corruption allegations that were happening in the health docket. And, every other time, every other phase, we are treated to scandalous activities within the health docket. So just, and I mean, amid all of them, none, has, well been prosecuted. We've not seen officials being convicted. We've not seen recovery of assets. Just why should we then think that this KEMSA one is going to be special?
Linda,
yeah.
The KEMSA story is a very sad story, and I'm not seeing anyone being prosecuted any day, anyhow. I want to differ with Joy, and I want to tell Joy that we live in a country where we're just going to sweep this under the carpet and we are going to move on. No one has ever been prosecuted in the health docket. No one. Even the former health minister, Cecily, with this health scandal, these equipments that were procured in a very shady manner, in a dark manner. Someone is eating money somewhere through the health docket. No one is going to be prosecuted. These things you're seeing about the DCI running up and down, these are just sideshows to calm down people who still have hope in the country. Yeah. Otherwise, there is nothing. The people in the office stole. People ate in the government. The director of KEMSA said that he was being directed by Mutahi Kagwe. Mutahi Kagwe is denying on the other side. The PS is saying this, the directors are saying this, the CEO is saying this. But I would want to believe the CEO, and I would want to believe the board in itself. And I want to think that they were given direction. The government ate this. And Uhuru Kenyatta knows all this. And the NIS, they know all this. What you're seeing is drama. And what you're seeing is, guys, you are just being told, relax, and we are getting done with this. No one will go in. Or if someone goes in, then it will be a sacrificial lamb. This country it belongs to someone, and you can't do anything about it.
Okay, and yes, as we drop on this one and we wait to see whether we're going to get any sort of answers, I just want to hear your take on the fact that there's been a lot of changes happening within the parastatal, of course, bodies. And I don't know. Okay, before we even get to that, this one, Kenya has donated a total of 300 million to the African Union COVID-19 Kitty or Response Fund and the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention units. There's been that clarion call that Africa should come together and find a way of dealing with COVID-19 as Africa. We've seen most of the leaders adamant, especially also in the East African region aspect. But then again, this move, Kenya has been actively involved. One, this donation. Two, what are the likelihoods, anyway, that this is going to be successful? Remember, at some point in time, also, Kenya has donated, I think, $1 billion or something, millions of money towards the justice system of the African Union. And up until date, really nothing, just nothing tangible comes out in terms of dealing with African cases, Joy.
No, those courts are active, and those organizations are active. It's just that they don't have local feedback mechanisms. So many Kenyans are not aware of maybe what benefit it is. And belonging to the Africa Union, to the East Africa community, has a cost. It's not.
Yes.
It's a like a members club.
Yeah,
so
you have to keep the club moving.
You have rights. You have to keep it up.
And but the argument that most of the people, well, like you say, there's not that local feedback that is probably good enough to get the people to understand that, you know, these activities are moving on well. But the argument is that there's been so much that is happening across, you know, different parts of Africa that really would require immediate attention of the African Union. But you find that there's no course that is actively addressing some of these issues.
That's where I was headed with this, is that when you have something that actually takes up taxpayers' money, there has to be a feedback mechanism that shows people this is the value for money. So let me use an example. The time when we had the locusts, we have a regional organization that is supposed to respond whenever there is a locust invasion, and it incorporates the countries in Eastern Africa, now the larger East Africa region, as well as the countries in the Horn of Africa. And so with membership into such an organization, when we had the invasion, the response would have started once they were sighted in Djibouti, before they become like a huge problem across the region. We should have been able to contain it then. But because the member states were not very active in keeping up the organization, it has been whittled down into a little secretariat that is very threadbare, and the response, therefore, to the locust was not as robust as it should have been. Now, this is the same with the East Africa community, it's the same with belonging to the Africa Union. We have to pull our weight. And now when you talk about the Africa CDC, is because there has been peculiarities with how Africa has responded to the COVID-19. With the exception, I think, of Morocco and South Africa, where it's really hit hard. The rest of us, somehow it hasn't been as punchy as it was in the West. With this in mind, therefore, it is important to get like African-born solutions. So the Chinese have come out and said how they have their own, vaccine coming up. We know that Germany is working on one. We know the States and Britain are working on one. In fact, Britain's trials have gone wonky on them, and now they have gone back to the drawing board. So Africa needs to have a response. But that said, when Kenyans are sitting here imagining, World Bank has just given us another loan of 81 billion. Somebody broke down how much we received during the COVID season, and it was apparently 4 billion shillings a day. And then we are here, the Senate is being told we can't have money to spend because, you know, you guys just stay there, there's no money, we'll come up with a formula. And then we hear we've given people 300 million. No, now up because you're like, okay, do we have money or don't we have money? Can we make up our minds what our economic status is? Because it is right as a citizen of Africa to be a good citizen of Africa. But if you can't even feed the people in the home, how are you feeding the neighbors' children? I don't know.
Yes, because they...
you know, first, before you give out 300 million, we need to be comfortable at home. When you talked about us giving out 300 million, I remembered that I imagined that we have been spending 4.5 billion shillings a day. Well, that's what we were borrowing. And a country like Kenya giving out such a donation outside the country, well, it's disturbing. But as Joy said, there is a cost to being a member of an international community. The question is, are we getting feedback, or do we have a local arm of that organization in our country so that we get the services of such an international organization in our country? It is not bad to be a member of international community. In fact, it is very good. It is time that we Africans come together and pull together and get these billions that we are borrowing, do something for us. Linda, it is so disturbing. Imagine, well, you are borrowing, yet you are giving out. But it's not bad. I'm not saying it's bad to give out. What I'm saying is that we just need to see how these things are going to work for us. And we need to have local arms of such an organization in our country.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, today I'm jumping on different issues. And now we leave that aside. Towards the last minutes, we'll be taking a look at some bit of politics, but not before I get your view on this, that government transfers Kenya Meat Commission from Ministry of Agriculture to Ministry of Defense. And yes, someone says talk of beefing up security. Joy.
It's one of those moves I've really been trying to understand what the magic is. What is it? Because the Kenya Meat Commission is a state corporation.
Yeah.
It's not a department of government. It ought to be like a business enterprise that is being run on behalf of government. It's supposed to benefit Kenyans directly by uptake of livestock from farmers, for provision for food for Kenyans. So we did moving to Ministry of Defense. I'm not very sure. I saw some communication online about how there's been a lot of cutting rustling and politicians are benefiting from it and it's become a cash cow, and so that's why it's been moved. But I don't know. For me, I find it a disturbing trend because there's been accusation of the president raiding the armed forces whenever he wants to, quote unquote, have his way with matters. And this is not helping that narrative because, I mean, we have Badi here. We've seen even how NIS officials became head of EACC, head of DPP. I wish sometimes our play wouldn't be so obvious because by moving Kenya Meat Commission to DOD, to Ministry of Defense, one of the things that happened is everybody now is asking, what is in KMC? There must be something. Whereas last week, nobody was thinking about Kenya Meat Commission. It didn't make any sense. But over and above that, as long as it's still within government and it is being housed somewhere, I guess the operations should not be affected. It's just curious to find out what extra is in the Ministry of Defense that wasn't in the Ministry of under the agriculture docket. Agriculture is a devolved function. You would imagine that livestock farming would be part of agriculture as a devolved function, would also be handled at the counties. But as with everything we have seen so far, there's actually a consolidation of some sort that's been going on. So I hope it achieves what they're trying to achieve. It is totally lost on me what they're trying to achieve, but let's see, time will tell. You know, one day something will happen and we'll be like, aha. So
this was
let's wait for the penny to drop. I don't think the penny has dropped yet.
You will know that in future. You'll be like, aha, this is what happened in the future. And when we allowed the county government of Nairobi to be militarized, that is when we opened as a certain direction of
But don't you think it looks like the Nairobi people are very happy with the militarization, so to speak?
NMS.
No, are they? You know, we just gave him that. I mean, we just told him to go ahead because he thought that the military was
the alternative was Sonko and the shenanigans. I mean, I'm sorry, as a Nairobian, or a former Nairobian, because now I live in Rongai, but as a Nairobian, I mean, I was so fed up with the stick in the mud politics of Nairobi that NMS came as, how do I put it? Nairobi is too big to fail. And so I was like, you know what, whatever it takes to secure Nairobi, please secure Nairobi. The fear now is the affront on devolution. But let me not get into Edgar's time. But I mean, as a Nairobian, I was pretty...
You're taking my time. Now, this is what I was saying.
Yeah.
We cannot have military leading this country. The option was Sonko, but we can also still change that option. We can still remove Sonko and put someone else like me. I just fronted myself. All right. So now...
okay. And now we see where this is headed.
Yes.
We're like, now we understand.
If we open that direction of military in the city, then we're going to mess this country. Right now, Kenyatta is bringing military into meat. What else? Are we going to have tea militarized? Because tea is my place, my country. That's where I come from. Are we going to have even education militarized?
Okay.
Because MAGOHA is not working. Now, you know, if they were thinking about food security, then they are wrong. You know. Yeah, someone got it all wrong. All wrong. And I think Parliament is asleep. The country is toothless. Uhuru Kenyatta is doing his own things. And the country is in a dustbin, by the way.
All right.
We can't allow this to happen. I hope someone is going to do something somewhere.
That someone
about
has
this.
to be you. We are waiting for Okia Umtata.
Yes. or your brother, Okia Umtata.
Yes, my brother Okia Umtata is like, we're all waiting to see what he's going to do as opposed to us, blowing the whistle. But anyway, like you rightfully put it, yes, I think we can only wait and see what next or what really informed this move, right? Okay, now let's cross over to some bit of politics. We have like three things that I'd want us to look at on matters politics. Of course, Right Honorable Raila Odinga says REGGAE is going to be back with the bang, and Atuoli coming out to declare that the date and everything is set for BBI. But before that, Third Way Alliance, one of the key crafters of the Constitution, AUKOT, is not enjoying his stay in matters politics. While he sounded like he would have been the best person, he sounded like he was the key figure of Third Way Alliance, he's now out. Fred Okango, I don't know whether any of you have met Fred Okango at any point.
Yes, I have.
Very vocal guy, and looks like he's been successful on this one. And I don't want to say that it's a Fred Okango's affair, but I mean, this is what Third Way Alliance needed.
I think so. It's one of those things where they have shown the way on one specific matter, where if the party leader takes a direction that was not ideologically what the party was established to do, then the party has enough mechanisms, even for the party leader to strong arm him out of the way. Now, like you said, not just with Fred, but in the party, they've had various discussions surrounding some of these things, and I'm okay. It seems like a bit far-fetched when you're the party leader and people manage to edge you out.
Yeah.
But we saw the same being attempted with Senator Wetangula and Musalia Mudavadi a short while ago. I think people have come to a place where they're tired of the big man at the top leadership, and they want to own the party. And I think Third Way Alliance has shown us, you know what, we can remain ideologically sound, we can manage to own the party and to move forward. One of the things that we must admit is that we are not privy to all the discussions that went on with the NEC and with everybody else. But I am glad that there was a process, that they followed through with the process. And with a few friends that I've talked with who are in the Third Way Alliance, they regret that it had to get to that point, but they realized if they were going to move forward with the ideology that they're trying to craft and what they're trying to accomplish, they realized Dr. Ekuru's ambition was different from what they wanted to do. So I laud them, because what it does, it also sets Dr. Ekuru free to do what he wants. I mean, there's an election coming up. Most probably he wants to run for something or other. Rather than staying with the party that is fighting you to the death, you'd rather set yourself free. But I laud them for showing the older parties the way. Set in place systems and institutions rather than setting in place personalities, such that if need be, and the personality has to be separated from the party, that it is a process that can be done fairly, quickly, and hopefully for mutual benefit.
Well, unless contested, at least this one has shown that, yes, they have officially managed to do this. And hashtag, let me say this, Punguza Mizigo Kenya, the person whose image appears below is no longer the party leader of Third Way Alliance Kenya, and is therefore not authorized to represent or transact any business on behalf of the party, effective September 9th, 2020. Declared officially, they have beat Ford Kenya, they have beat Amani, those ones that we know attempted this, but have not been successful so far.
No, but you have to think back to what happened earlier. When they were doing Punguza Mizigo, they had done a lot of background work, and the party leaders only sort of came to the fore to pull to try and pull the referendum together.
Yeah.
And at that hurdle, they seem to fail. There, I think, is where majority of the problem started, because there was a lot of allegations about interference with the process, trying to subvert the process. We saw this when Apollo Mboya went to try and switch off KPLC, and Kenyans rallied behind him, and then they say, okay, fine. The matter was settled legally as we are wont to do, but Kenyans felt betrayed by it and decided, you know what, we'll carry on with switch off KPLC, but without you. And I'm taking this as kind of the same thing, where people have an ideological direction and they're looking for a leader, but now that the leader doesn't seem to have the same interest, for whatever reason, they've decided we are carrying on, but without you. So it's an emancipation, and I hope the other politicians see that the writing is on the wall. People will not be sitting there endlessly hoping for you to take them where they want to go.
Just how can we look at it as emancipation and overlook these talks of the fact that there could be an external hand that has instigated or that has, pushed for this, that there's some funding that is ongoing, to get these people to this particular point, Edgar?
First, let me tackle the issue of the ouster.
Yeah.
This was the only successful ouster. First, they started with Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru Kenyatta was to be out. The Tanga Tanga team was taking over Jubilee, and Uhuru Kenyatta struck back. Now, followed by Akina Moses Wetangula, Akina Mudavadi. Those ones were not successful because they knew the affairs that were running in the party. Yeah. Moses Wetangula was aware, and Mudavadi was aware, and those are real politicians. Ekuru AUKOT is not a real politician. He is a technocrat. He is a technocrat.
He gave us the constitution.
Yes, he gave us the constitution. He is not a politician. Even, did you see how he handled the Punguza Mizigo thing? He came up with a document, fronted the document, and told us to vote on it. You see, he did not go negotiating the document with other politicians. Ekuru AUKOT was not aware about what was cooking in his party. I can tell you for sure that this is Fred Okango's work.
Yeah.
I can tell you for sure that
Fred Okango has been very vocal. And the question is just, who is this man?
Yes.
So, I mean, people are asking that. Anyway.
Yes. Now, beside that, Ekuru AUKOT was caught up in a mess. He did not control the party the way the party should be controlled. Ekuru AUKOT's mistake is not there. Ekuru AUKOT was just caught off guard, and I'm sure he has pain in his heart because he has lost a baby.
So that means, is that a polite way of saying that this was his own undoing? It's got nothing to do with an external hand?
Well, there might be an external hand, but the presence of Ekuru AUKOT in Kenyan politics is inconsequential because he doesn't understand politics.
All right.
It is inconsequential.
Let's leave that aside.
Yes.
Let's leave that aside. We wait to see what will happen in the next team.
All right.
Right Honorable Raila Odinga says REGGAE is there, and Atuoli confirms that indeed even the date is set for a referendum, Joy.
Well, these days I'm hesitant to say what I really think about
the BBI.
What is going on, because no. The BBI, like I've said here, time without number. There's things in the BBI that the Kenyans really need to get on with it. They really need to get behind. They really need to reap the benefits of it. I listened to some of the presentations made to the steering committee, and Kenyans have excellent ideas that if we implement, that actually make a difference in our lives. And I'm grateful that people rose up to this BBI thing with more than just the politics. Because if you go to if you read some of the presentations that people made to the committee, they didn't even bother to deal with the politics of it. They just dealt with, this is how we want to see education going, this is how we want to see one. And therefore, the stuff in the BBI that doesn't even need a referendum. Yes. It just needs for our leaders to look at and say, you know what, this is good, implement. This is good, implement. This is good, legislate. This is good, legislate. Because that which needs a referendum is such a tiny core of the whole. But when you hear talks about a referendum push and it's a strong push, then you can tell we are back in the realm of politics. And when people are looking to push for a referendum, what they want to create is a wave. Is that, msisimuko of engaging with your core and keeping your core engaged. Now, the problem with that is that the timing is so wrong that if you insist on it, it may actually backfire on you spectacularly. Because this is coming after COVID. We've been stuck in the houses for so long. You've been telling us that there is a dangerous disease. Then now you want us to go to rallies, and then you want us to go and line up. We are talking about there is no money, even for the counties. The activities are grinding to a halt. We are trying to get the 50% released. We are getting feedback from the National Assembly that that might not happen. Let the Senate do its work and enact CARA. We are in a place where we are looking and we're thinking, okay, is this our biggest priority right now? And even people who are firmly behind BBI right now are taking 2 steps back. They're like, you know what, maybe a referendum is not such a good idea. But when you hear Baba and Atoli talking about it, that's why I'm saying I'm hesitant to respond, is because, I mean, these guys have been known to pull a rabbit out of a hat.
Yeah.
So it's you can't really discount what they say as absolute, impossibility. They may know something that we don't. Remember, there's a time Baba even gave us a budget for it. He said, you know what, this will cost all of 2 billion shillings.
Yes.
So it is possible that there is a secretariat somewhere working very hard towards setting up a referendum. I will not discount it. Only as an observer and as a Kenyan, and as much as I support the BBI, I do not think that the timing is right for a referendum. I think it should be broken down and implemented with what can be implemented should be pushed through. But trying to push through a referendum right now is not a good idea.
And numerous opinion polls conducted in regards to the same, and equally, most of the numbers dictate that a majority of Kenyans sort of feel like, after all this COVID-19, affair, they genuinely do not think they want to be treated to an election anytime soon. And from what is declared, while we might not have the final document of the BBI, there are high possibilities that it's going to recommend a change of governance system, or change of the system in terms of governance, and that then automatically means that we're going to be treated to a referendum. Do you foresee a scenario where this is going to be pushed down the throat of Kenyans, Edgar?
Now, Linda, finally, we are having a document very soon. Finally,
we will
know what the BBI is all about.
Yeah.
We have been thinking, we've been talking about BBI, and Joy Mdivo is supporting BBI. That she the document that is not there. We have been supporting things that are not there.
No. I need to
well, at least they've said what it is that they look to incorporate.
No. I have to clarify one. I'm not supporting a document that is not there. When we read BBI 1, there are things I have said, the conversation about national ethos, a national value, shared prosperity, let's be peaceful elections. There are things that came out in BBI 1 that were actually surprisingly common sense positions that we need to do something about them. And that's what I'm saying. There's an essence that came out in BBI that were not conversations about positions at the top. And that much I wish we wouldn't lose that conversation. And most of those things don't need a referendum to even legislate. However, on this document that has not come out, I do not have a position actually. That one I'm categorical. I do not have a position. But I sat in on some of those rallies. I went to KICC and listened to Kenyans presenting to the steering committee, and guys had actually really good ideas. That if those ones are gleaned and sifted, Kenyans can get, how much money have we spent on that BBA? We should get something for it really. It can't have all been a circus just for the politicians. That is my argument. So I'm not supporting the referendum or not. In fact, that bit irritates me to no end. The bit that I actually don't want to lose is there are some ideas that came out that need a lot of sense, that don't need too much to implement. Like, for example, we changed Boxing Day with a gazette notice. There are some of those things that can be done. And those ones we shouldn't lose because we're throwing out the baby with the bathwater. That's my point. I'm sorry, Edgar, I ate into your time, but I had to clear.
No, it is allowed.
You have eaten a lot of my time.
No, feel comfortable, Edgar. Just Malaysia.
Okay. finally, we'll get to read the document, and finally, we'll have to debate on the issues on the document. But I know that there are some few issues that will really concern the former Prime Minister and the President. There are issues which are at their heart, like changing the nature of the government. That's why they are calling for a referendum. Now, campaigns will start for or against the document, and factions will be formed, and groups will be formed, which will now head into 2020. It is too late now to change the constitution. Too late, because you can only change the constitution 2 years before. As in, I don't know whether that clause is still there, but it is too late. But they wanted that form of government to be present when we are having the next president. That is the only thing we suspect. All those other things will come and they will undergo legislation. And I'm sure the president knows that we can legislate these other things in the BBI. But that issue of changing the government, of having a prime minister elected from parliament, will require us to line up after COVID-19 and after borrowing a lot of money. But sometimes you don't have a choice in Kenya, like militarization. You don't have a choice. I'd want to tell Joy that whether we like it or not, we will line up. Whether we like it or not, we will have another Huduma number process. Whether we like it or not, we will be told to do things in this country that we don't like doing. This is Kenya. This is good.
This is one thing to hear and unfortunate to hear. But yes, that is how much, I mean, even the elites sort of feel like, you know, as a people, we have been curtailed to that level. Time is not on our side. We're exactly at 8:10. But in 1 minute, I think, I would love to hear your take on what has been going on in terms of, you know, the hate speech and terrible utterances from the key leaders. And that move that many have taken to go out and condemn that, and from leaders to the common mwananchi, and equally that move that most of the leaders also have called on the DP to apologize on behalf of the people who, you know, dished out these utterances, the argument that they are his foot soldiers. Joy.
One thing that I find regrettable is that in Kenyan politics, we get to a level where we become personal. And Sudi and Ngeno, they're not doing anything new. I mean, Ngeno is a KANU MP. Sudi is a Jubilee MP. But they talked, and it was, how do I put it, regrettable what they said. But the thing is this, I wish it was an isolated incident. What they are doing is what we've been treated to for eons. None of these politicians can stand and say, by the way, mwache kuleta siasa ya matusi, because nani hapo hajatusi mwenzake. All of them, from the president to the right honorable to the DP, all of them at some point or other have said things in public that, quite honestly, we did not care to listen. So on that level, I find some hypocrisy with the level of outrage that we're seeing now. But as a mother, I also understand that, you know what, there's a place you don't get. You don't do your mama jokes. It's just not cool to do your mama jokes. But that said, also, I'm a bit slightly bemused by the reactions. Because like people are falling over themselves, trying to demonstrate that they're actually outraged on behalf of the mother of the president. And I look at it, I'm like, you know what? Come on, people. Yes, it is regrettable, but it's like even calling on the DP to apologize on behalf of his foot soldiers. I mean, since when? If you do a crime, it's you who's going to do the time. If they really are feeling offended, talk to the person who made the utterance. That's the bit now I don't understand. How it has now become about the DP, it's become a warmonger. That's a bit I'm scratching my head. I'm like, everything in Kenya just has to get a political spin to it. That much I don't get. But that said, they all really behave badly. Sudi and Ngeno spoke very much out of turn and should go ahead and apologize for it. And at the same time, these processes we're seeing of taking them to court are not sustainable. Those judges, I mean, I just wish we could get serious about our politics sometimes, because we are treated to too many jokes. I mean, it's just, it's too much. And people need to learn that leadership demands a certain level of decorum. And what we saw from Sudi, what we've seen from Ngeno, is completely lacking. They need to step up. They're better than that. Or rather, they ought to be better than that.
Well, no amount of pressure will get Sudi to apologize. From what he says, it feels like, there's nothing wrong he did.
Linda, these are my brothers. Joanna Ngeno is a brother, and Sudi is a brother. So I'm going to talk. I'm not going to talk on behalf of my brothers, but I'm just going to explain. Yeah. I'm just going to explain what they meant. Yeah. Kenyans are angry, Linda. Kenyans are angry, and Jubilee itself is at war. There is a split in the middle, and these people are fighting. If you go through the words of Sudi one after another, he was saying, my mother is not different from your mother, as in, but those are mother's jokes which Joy said should not be tolerated. True, but if you go through it, he should be told where he went wrong. Yeah. But right now, people are being paid 300 shillings to demonstrate, to run around on the streets, to rally behind the former first lady. This is uncalled for. Let us tell Sudi what he did wrong. Let us tell Joanna Ngeno what he did wrong, and we will move past this. This is Uhuru Kenyatta hurt. He is hurt. And he is using the police to get his things right. But Kenyans are angry because of the economy. Kenyans are angry because of things which are happening in Jubilee. Kenyans are angry because of the state being used in another direction. They said what other Kenyans can say. Yeah.
And you must also...
It's not your country, by the way, it's not our country.
No, but you must also realize that Ngeno was responding to Tobiko, and with them they have a historical grudge with the Mau and
with the Mau factor.
The Maasai in Narok and the Kalenjin in Narok actually have a historical grudge. So I think for Ngeno especially, the spin is totally different. It wasn't even about the DP or none. It's that on the ground, Tobiko can say some things and the Kalenjin keep quiet because it's a Maasai. At that time, it's a Maasai who has come out against the Kalenjin. And so the Kalenjins have to rise up and tell the Maasai, you're not alone in Narok, we're all still here. So there's a lot more at play, I think, here. But when we zero in on this one thing, we lose the plot. And I think that's what has happened. We've gotten to a place where the conversation has become about insulting mothers, but I think brings an important angle. If you see that it's only leaders and paid crowds that are coming out, and the ordinary folk are not as outraged, you need to ask then, what does the ordinary folk think about this? Because I'm thinking maybe they, on some subliminal level, also condone the conduct of our leaders, which is most unfortunate, but surely we need to rise above this. We should be better than this.
Well, okay, it's still a developing story. We'll get to see what angle it will
I hope it's a dying story.
We all hope for that anyway.
It's
Thank
not
you so much, Joy.
They have to use it to beat Ruto.
Joy Mudivo, Executive Director, East Africa Center for Law and Justice, and Edgar Willie Kosgei, Public Policy Analyst. Thank you so much. We get to see you some other time, and that's where we get to wind up this session as we cross over to Matters Lifestyle. Remember the conversation about family planning coming up next. This is courtesy of you upon that demand. So your answers, you will get them today. And you can keep sending those questions. #MorningCafe at Linda_Alela TV47KA. Let's get to have them answered by the Gaina after this break.